So moving into the final straight now, I just wanted to talk about social media and why it's so important that you start to think about social media, thinking about where the web is going. I'm always trying to play the move 2 or 3 moves ahead, and social media is clearly where the game is at. Google is very important, but we're seeing a huge rise of attention getting put onto Facebook, and I think the importance of understanding social media and how you can use it to become a market leader is absolutely key. So what we're going to talk about to start off with is this idea of becoming a market leader in your market space. So what can we do that puts you on the cutting edge? And that picture is a little uncomfortable for some people, being on the cutting edge. It's all about when you are the market leader, you can charge a premium price, and people will still line up to do business with you. There are so many fringe benefits that come from being the go-to guy in your particular niche. So we really want to make sure that we do everything that we can to position you in that space. But by using social media, I use it to help me to distribute content. Because a market leader, what do? They're consuming what's new, what's hot. They're on the cutting edge. They're the ones making the call as to here's what's happening, here's what's going to happen that's coming down the pipe. And it's all about using tools like Twitter and Facebook to get that message out to people, meeting them where they are and showing them that you're in front of that wave. Also gives you a chance to engage with clients. Gone are the days of these big businesses where or maybe Google's probably a good example of businesses where you still can't get in contact with them. But I think now we're seeing a rise of a lot smaller and medium-sized businesses able to compete against the big boys because they can really get in there and meet their clients where they are. And it's that whole transparency and keeping it real. And that's all what I'm about. It's all about here's the open book, let the results speak for themselves. So what's the secret for positioning yourself as a market leader? I've identified a few key elements that you want to start to think about and start to build these into your market. And I've given some examples for each one. So the first one is telling your story, and we talked about that in the web video and making sure it's in your autoresponder sequence. But that really is a great positioning tool, putting you as the market leader. When I talk about all of these different workshops that I went to in my past, and some of the successes that I've had, and some of the people that I've been fortunate enough to meet and interview, and all that type of stuff, telling that story, making it part of my story, really positions me as the expert, because now I've got those runs on the board. And you do have that in you. You just need to draw it out, and you might get someone's help to try and draw that out and really start to tell your story. If you look at someone like Tony Robbins, he tells the same story whenever he starts his workshops and things like that. It's all about this down and out kid who was overweight and unhappy with life and was down in the dumps, and then he had his breakthrough and he ran along the beach and wrote down his goals and got really clear on what he wanted to do, and the rest is history, and he changed his life. It's that rags to riches. It's that hometown boy, small hometown boy makes good. There's a few different story elements that you can look at. In fact, there's a great book you should have a look at. It's by Robert McGee, and it's called Story. And it talks about what are the different core stories. There are only a few different styles of story that have sort of echoed throughout the ages, and pick what your story is. Are you a David versus Goliath type story? What's let's say Willows, for example. There are Virgin's doing it really well. They're coming out with the Virgin gyms, and they're saying, it's what is the Virgin story? It's all David versus Goliath. It's all, I see this industry that is being underserved and they're getting rolled. They're doing it with the gyms, they're doing it with the mobile phones, and they're coming out and going, we're going to offer something different. We weren't happy with what these people were providing, so we thought, well, we can do it better, and that's why we're here, and we're providing, no contracts for our mobile phones, or no contracts contracts for our gyms, that type of thing. That's their story. It's that David versus Goliath, us versus them. But there are a whole lot of different stories you can find. So find your story and then start to tell it. I tell my story at the start and it's just focusing in on the parts of that story. Like what was my story at the start? My story was I had some good successes early on, but then I got frustrated. Like I started attending all of these workshops, I started digging a whole lot of holes, and that got me frustrated because I started, a lot of entrepreneurs really connect with that, because you find entrepreneurs will just jump from one opportunity to the next. So that's part of my story. And then what was my breakthrough? It's almost like, I had a little bit of success, then it was really, really hard. Then I had my breakthrough when I understood the way traffic worked, and that's when things started to take off. So that's like I'm showing you the way that I craft those stories. Then we've also got interviews are another great way to position yourself as an expert, a little bit counterintuitive. Someone thinks that, if I'm interviewing the expert, it makes the expert look great, but it doesn't necessarily make me look great. But when I first got into the internet marketing space and we started setting up Melbourne SEO services, I started to interview the likes of Rich Sheffrin, Ed Dale, Yannick Silva, some of the biggest names in internet marketing. I got to interview them through some connections and things like that. And it really positioned me. I got the halo effect that rubbed off on me. Now it shows that I'm sort of moving in these circles, and that then starts to rub off on me, and before you know it, now people are contacting me, asking me to do interviews with them. And it all started off with podcast interviews. So check out podcastinterviews.com. It's got over 35 interviews, hour long, zero pitch, no opt-in. You don't even have to opt in. Just visit that website and you'll just see me interviewing tons of these different experts, trying to get all of their best stuff. And when I interview someone, I'm not one to sit there and tell me your story of your life, and they spend the first 45 minutes of the interview telling me all about their story. I'll do the research first, tell the story for them, so that way that piece is gone, and then I just start asking the questions that I want answered. And it's a great way as well for me to get close and work with some of these guys. It opens some amazing doors. I'm on their radar. It's almost like I'm getting private consulting from them that I don't have to pay for. And the way that I position it with them is I'm going to help them get exposure to my market. So that's what it's all about. I'm helping them get exposure to my market. Next thing as well, this is what experts do. They pick a side. Oftentimes it's good to say something controversial or take a hard line on something and just stand up and you say, this isn't good enough, or this is the way things are done. So a good example of that in the stock market niche, it helped sort of positioning with Stuart, my business partner at the time, and we got him to come out and basically say that indicators are crap. A lot of people, when they're analysing stock market charts, apply indicators and, which indicator's perfect and what's going to get you the best entry and what's going to get you the best exit signal. And we just came out and said, it's all crap, because what indicators do is all they do is they analyse the underlying stock market price. All it's doing is a mathematical equation on the stock market chart. So really the most important thing is the chart itself, not the indicator. Look at what the chart's doing, because all the other stuff is just interpretations on what's happening to that underlying chart. Moral of the story, we took a very hard line and said that indicators are crap, don't worry about using them, just focus on price. And we did that by design because it created a discussion. And some people were outraged, some people agreed. We just created this stir, and it created a lot of attention that ended up coming on us. So it's good to pick a side. The other thing, experts run events. So where you can, whether you get on some sort of speaking tour, or you get someone else to interview you, or this may or may not suit you and your business. Some people don't like to do that, but putting yourself in that limelight really can help position you to be the expert. And I'll show you how to do that with press releases in the next session. Make sure you document your results, which I've been talking about all the way through here. Creating your own language is another one for really good for positioning you as the expert. So when I use my autoresponder sequence and we're speaking to my stock market guys, I'll talk about the TYTP, and we talk about the MPSG, and we talk about, these are all acronyms of our product, where they know what they are, and it's almost like we have our own language, and they'll email me through my customer support using my own language. So that really positions me as an expert, because it's like we've got our own little language and we're talking our own language together. So that works really well. And then obviously anything that you can do to help get your content syndicated. So whether it's through media, public speaking, whether it's through article distribution, do whatever you can to make sure that you get featured in and references and things like that. So that's what it's all about. We're positioning you as an expert. So how do we keep you on the cutting edge of what's going on? You want to have a look at, if you've got an iPhone, I use an app called Reader, but you can use Google Reader, whatever it is. What I would start to do is pick out what are the biggest blogs in your industry. So what are the blogs where people are talking about what's going on in your business, and you can get what's called an XML feed. It's just a link, a URL. You copy and paste that into your Google Reader, and what it does is it just collates all of those blogs into one place. So instead of having to look at 500 different websites, you can go to one place and read all of the news about what's going on in your industry. And I'll give you, let's actually jump over and have a quick look. So okay, so this is in my Google Reader. So basically under here, like I've put it into different categories on the left here, but basically I've got like a little SEO section, and you can see here are all of the different websites that I've got under SEO, because I'm trying to keep up to date with what's going on in SEO. So I put them under this one category, and then on my iPhone I can have a look, and I get all of these are like little news reports. So I don't read the newspaper like most people read the news. I read it through Google News, because I can really tailor what news I'm consuming. Like certain things aren't of interest to me and other things are much more important. So I want to know what's going on in SEO. I want to know what's going on in Web 2.0. I've got my own sites and things like that. So basically I'll sit through on my phone and I can scan through what's going on. Now how can you use that information? It's great for putting it in your own blogs. It's great for retweeting it out. Like it shows that you're on the cutting edge, because what does a market leader do? A market leader breaks news. As news is breaking, they help disseminate that info. This is important. You need to be listening to this. So that's why I do it, and it's great. Another way, which we talked about, is making sure that you use Google Alerts. So either through Google Alerts, you can set whatever your big keywords are that are most important to you. Set it in Google Alerts so you get notification. As it happens, you can react to that information. Now we got to the Old Spice commercial probably a little bit too late. I don't know when we did that. That was probably a good few months ago now when we launched that Old Spice parody. But the video for Old Spice had been around. It was a year old by the time that we got to it. We still got some really good watches for it and some great feedback. But what would have been better is if, as that was breaking, if we did the parody then we would have rode in the slipstream of that video and it blowing up and everybody getting media attention and all that type of stuff. So you want to try and make sure that's why you use Google Reader and alerts. If you can create content around what's happening, that's really where you get the benefit. It's almost like they say in the stock market, all boats rise on a floating tide. So this idea of everybody can make money when the stock market's going up. Similarly, you just get dragged along with it. If there's media attention going on or something like that and you're riding around that topic, you just get dragged up with it just because you're focusing on an area that's growing. So that's how I keep on in front of that. Another takeaway here as well is I don't think social media is for everyone. And if you remember back at the start of the day, I talked about this idea of what I'm going to show you today. I've given it to you in the order in which I think you should approach it. So start off with usability, move to SEO, make sure that you get your web video right and your autoresponders right. Get all this stuff right first before you flip into social media. Because you want to make sure, social media, web video, all that type of stuff, it's all about drawing people back to your website so you can capture their details and you can continue to market to them. So you don't want to go out there and drive a whole boatload of traffic. They get there and then you never make anything of it. So just make sure that your website is as sticky as possible first. And also, it just feels like the buzzword. Everybody's talking about Twitter, they're talking about Facebook, and that's why they feel like that they need to be on it. My dentist a little while ago, he said, oh, you wanted to get on Facebook, and I said, oh, look, you've got to do this, and this before I'd even consider getting on Facebook. And then we had to come through the idea of, well, why do people actually use Facebook? You know, I don't think someone is going to come and like a page just because it's a dentist. There needs to be a reason to engage. It's a social community. So it's not right for every business, and you need to think about the way to engage with it correctly to get the most out of it. There are some drawbacks, like there's ongoing management required. Facebook and Twitter, it's not about setting up an account and going, I have a Facebook and I have a Twitter and now I'm done. It's about ongoing communication. Because what did I talk about before when I was saying about what are these social media mechanisms used for? It's about disseminating content. It's about engaging with your community. So you need to make sure that it gets that ongoing management. If someone sent me a message on Twitter and then I didn't ever get back to them, I'd probably end up burning that client. Like, they sent a message to me, it's like they tried to talk to me and I didn't respond to them. You'd think they're rude, I'm not going to do business with them. So that's why it's important that you need to engage on it. The other thing that makes social media hard, and it's hard to quantify the return on investment, and I don't think that's a reason not to do it. I think Gary Vaynerchuk talks about in his latest book, The Thank You Economy, this idea of where business is going, and it's all about businesses that build up this brand equity and engaging and communicating with the client and really getting the bonding and actually caring. And he always says, actually give a shit about your client, because most businesses don't actually care about their client. It's just about making the next quick buck. So that's what makes social media a little bit hard, but I think you still need to embrace it, especially what's about to come down the pipe. So it's better to be in front of that wave, meeting the clients where they are, showing them that you care. So how do I use each of the different tools? So Twitter, the way that I use Twitter for me, it's all about engaging with clients, having very quick communication. Twitter is where I inform them about what's going on. So I'll retweet stuff. If you were following me on Twitter, there's my Twitter there. But, last night when I rocked up in Toowoomba, I said, pumped about giving the Competition Crusher workshop tomorrow. And that's what I use it for. I use it for sharing industry news. The other thing as well, some people do follow. If anyone follows you, they'll follow them back. I tend not to do that. I took this lead, I suppose, from Ed Dale. This idea of the reason I use Twitter, I want to use Twitter the way it was designed, which is I follow people that I want to keep in touch with. So if I want to know what, I mainly use it for internet marketing, but you'll use it for your industry if there are industry people who are on Twitter in your space. I'll follow the people that I want to keep up to date with the news that they're breaking, and I won't follow back the people who follow me, but I'll very much engage with them though. If people, they call it @reply, if people write the @ symbol and then my name, it's like they're talking to me, and then I'll talk back to them. So that's the way that I use Twitter, and I think that's the way that it was meant to be used, rather than following everybody back. I think if you start to use that, like for me, Twitter's good. The other thing that's quite useful is you can do Twitter searches, so you can find out what conversations are going on, and then you can join that conversation. So you can do searches, let's say someone was talking about construction, you can do searches on Twitter for discussions about construction, find out where the conversation is, and then join that discussion. Now, this comes back to what social media is all about. Social media, it's not all about pitching your product. It's not all about, here's what I'm trying to sell. It's like you're in a party and you first need to engage with them, have a conversation before you start pitching whatever it is that you're looking at doing. So don't just get onto Twitter and then spam every second day, here's my latest offer, here's my latest offer. No one's going to want to follow you, no one's going to want to engage with you. So that's why you want to make sure that you start to disseminate that news so people want to follow what it is that you're doing to stay on that cutting edge. Then how do you use Facebook pages? Now for Facebook pages, you can set up your own Facebook profile, and that's what I did when I first started, and Sally's going to get started on Facebook really soon. I set up my own personal Facebook account, so for just like davidjennings.com, and in the early days I would friend anyone. So this is before I jumped on using pages, particularly with all my trading guides. I'd say, yep, come and join me over on Facebook. And the reason I did that, well, it was well before they even had pages, but I did it from a bonding level because I wanted them to see the lifestyle that I was leading, it was all about posting up photos of things that I was doing, cool stuff, so that they could sit there and they'd see what was going on in my life and bond with me at a very different level to what they were getting in the emails. It was much more personal, so it was more connecting with me. So I did that initially, and I think looking back now, I try and channel. I want to try and keep Facebook more so for people that I know, because it's quite good to use it for friending people that you actually know, and then you log in and you see your activity feed, see what's going on and engage with them that way, and then use things like pages for more of your personality or your profile, like your public persona or a business name or something like that. So for Melbourne SEO, we ended up setting up the SEO Mastermind. Now, the reason I went for the word SEO Mastermind as opposed to Melbourne SEO Services is who wants to kind of become friends with a company? You've got people out there who like Coca-Cola and stuff like that, but I wanted them to feel like they were joining a mastermind group, a community, and that's what Facebook's all about. It's about that community. So that's why I chose that name, SEO Mastermind, as opposed to Melbourne SEO Services, because I want them to, join with me and know it's not just about me pitching, it's about me bonding with them. And this comes back to this idea about why are people using Facebook? And this is where so many people get it wrong. They're using Facebook to spam up little things they might have done. Sometimes it's good to add in your blog posts and things like that, but it might be making an offer. People don't go on Facebook to get pitched offers. They go to engage in a community and see what friends are up to and, discuss the latest gossip, that type of thing. So what do we do for Planet 13? If a band's about to tour in Australia, we'll ask them, we're not saying, hey, go buy this band t-shirt. We're saying, did you see such and such as touring? Are you going to this gig? The last time that we saw such and such touring, Guns N' Roses, the last time they were here, I saw them in '89, or whatever the case may be. That's the way that we're using it and engaging in a community fashion where we're talking about what's going on and having a discussion as opposed to just pitching offers. And then every now and then you splice in your offers. So the way to use Facebook and use it well, like one of the coaching clients, that photography client, the way that he's used it, and we're using it very effectively, is he's running competitions where it's about who's the cutest baby, so in a particular area, and he's getting people to upload their baby photos onto his Facebook page to enter the competition. He'll tag that photo, and basically the winner is the person who gets the most amount of likes. So if your baby photo has the most amount of likes, you end up winning some free baby shoot or something like that. But what he's doing is he's getting all of these people to submit photos where he'll end up tagging them in it. So what does that mean? That'll appear in their feed and all their friends will start to see it, and then they'll say, well, I want to win this competition, and they'll tell all their friends to like that photo, and then it kind of starts to spread a bit virally. Because what spreads virally on Facebook? Photos do, videos do. That's why people hop on Facebook and start to share content. So that's the way that you want to start to think. And then how do we make money out of that? So he's got a little competition running. Then he's also collecting the people who enter into this competition, and then he's making follow-up marketing offers to them. So this is how you do it. And we're doing some similar stuff with, I talked about Planet 13 and also the dentist. So this is that coaching client where we sat down. So I have this coaching thing, and I usually only take on, I've got about 5 clients that I do at any one point in time, and I always narrow it down into one day because I'm busy building my own business, but I actually find it keeps me very sharp to work in other businesses to see what's going on. So in one of our coaching sessions, we planned out this, and this is like a strategy of what happens when someone engages in his services and in Facebook, and what's the funnel, how do they flow through his business. So we either get them from Facebook or the website, or maybe through some joint ventures. We try and, if it's through the website, we funnel them into the autoresponder. So he's got an autoresponder sequence going. If it's in Facebook and we generate them through one of these competitions, he follows up with a free coupon. So basically, everyone who didn't win in this competition, he can follow that person up and say, hey, you didn't end up winning the cutest baby competition, but here is a $200 voucher off your next photo shoot when you come and get a photo with us, and you get some baby photos, and he'll put together a little package. So he puts together a coupon and then follows up with them after that. Now the process, once they do that, they get their coupon, they come in for a planning session, they have their shoot. Now, after the shoot, what's he got? He's going to get an iPad when they come in for their shoot, and they're going to check in. While they're waiting in the waiting room, he'll give them the iPad and just say, if you want to check in, he'll have Facebook loaded, so that way they can check in. And what does that do? That then appears in all of the friends' feeds. Everybody who's a friend of this starts to go, oh, he's off to have this photography shoot or something like that. So it starts to engage it that way. And then he does the edit, and then they come back for the viewing. And what happens on the viewing? When they view, he uploads the video, the images to Facebook. Now, they've already liked him in the previous shoot session, so he now tags them in the photo. What happens? The photo then appears in the feed. Everybody's like, oh, that photo shoot looks amazing. That the baby looks really, really good. Starts to spread virally. Engagement starts to happen. Then we've got a plan is after maybe sort of 10 or so comments, we're going to follow up and make them an offer where he'll go, hey, it's Brent from Capture Imaging Photography. Just thought I'd touch base and say, such and such just had a photo shoot, and we'd like to give a special offer to any friends of Jamie's. She can come in and just quote this unique code, and then we'll also give you a coupon. And then that's new ways to start feeding into the top. And then so they're there, he'll make sure he grabs a testimonial from them. He'll give them, we talked about some extra coupons that he can give away. This is like a referral strategy. So that way he gives two $50 vouchers that he can give to them, and they can just hand out to friends. And then when they come to pick up, they go into an autoresponder sequence. So they come for the viewing, and then they actually come back when they're printed out. He puts them into an autoresponder sequence where he follows up with them and says, thanks for coming, blah, 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 blah. And then the final step is he also does an Anomoto, which is a way for creating video content. So he takes all of the photos that he's done on the day, loads it into this slideshow, adds some audio in the background, uploads it to Facebook, tags them in it, and it appears again in their feed. And it all happens that way. That's the way you should be using social media. That's creating a strategy, and that's creating something that works, and something that, that's what Facebook's all about. It's about video, it's about photos, it's about engagement, it's about getting likes, it's about getting people to share that content. So, I want to talk a little bit about the future, and even though I said it's not right for all businesses, we can see some changes already starting to happen in the web. There's a great book by a guy called Eric Qualman called Socialnomics that I actually interviewed the guy on podcast interviews, so you can hear the interview with him. And basically what he talked about was this idea that the web is changing, and what is more relevant to you as a user. Let's say you're on Google and you're searching for accommodation in Europe because you're about to go on a holiday. What's more important to you? Is it a robot that serves up a result based on an algorithm, Google? Or would it be if a friend went and travelled to Europe and they said, oh, here's where I stayed, here's where I recommend? So obviously the latter is going to be more important to you because you trust the word of your friend more. Like that is worth so much more. And that seems to be the way the web is starting to change. And we saw Facebook, they came out with the like button, and there's a lot of speculation as to whether or not Facebook would be able to use that data to create their own search engine. And what's happening now, they ended up doing that deal with Bing that I talked about. So we're starting to see already when you like a page, it is starting to influence the search results. It's not happening in Google, but Google's starting to take into account things like Twitter and Facebook and things like that. It's just starting now. So we mark my words, this is the way that the web's going. So what you can do to build up your social community, build up your expert status, become an expert in your niche, will pay dividends long into the future. So we want to make sure that we really start to get on Facebook, build up that community. We start to use the like button. We make sure that we get Twitter into our business as well. I think Google, when they found out, like Facebook started to give them a little bit of the spooks. It was about 18 months ago, I think, they went together and they got 50 of the biggest heads of Google to come together and talk about the future of the web and what were the risks that Google was facing. And Google said pretty much it's Facebook and it's the way the social web is going, and that's going to be the next significant change, because that's what's most relevant. Having search results tailored to you and your situation. It's a little bit Big Brother, someone watching over you, but really that's ultimately what you want anyway, not the Big Brother part, but having your marketing that's very much tailored to you. And you see that when I talked about Amazon earlier today, this idea when you get an email from Amazon and they'll tailor that marketing to you and they'll say, here are some other books that you might be interested in reading based on previous searches. That's the way that everything's heading together. So Google had this meeting, they came up with a project, they named it the Emerald Sea. That was kind of like their top secret project name. It evolved. Google's tried to come into social media. They had a thing they call Buzz, which kind of died quite quickly. They also had Google Wave. There's a few attempts. Now, the last most recent shot, which has just happened now, like in the last couple of weeks, is Google Plus. And this is Google betting the farm on their social media. Now, they've created, what they're trying to make is a Facebook killer. At the moment, it's only been out for a couple of weeks. They had 10 million people sign up in 2 weeks. It seems to be getting a bit of ground. I don't know whether or not Google Plus is going to take off or not. That's here nor there. The real key takeaway here is Google, with some of the smartest minds in the world working for them, have said, this is where things are going. We need to get on this now, or Facebook is going to come and kill us. Just, you might think, oh, who could knock Google off? A few years ago, there was a thing called MySpace that you might have heard about, and that was one of the first real well-known social media sites. And everybody thought, MySpace is not going anywhere. Almost overnight, Facebook came out and just absolutely crushed them. And I think Google's a bit worried that there's the potential there for this data that Facebook's collecting to just make them a more attractive destination for the user because it's more relevant to them. So they came out with this Google Plus thing. It's still only in the early days, but we know that it's already starting to influence search results, and we're starting to see social media filtering through to the search results. They came out with a thing they called authorship. This was announced 2 days ago. This is kind of super cutting edge stuff, where now you can assign an author to certain posts. So you'll be searching in Google and a head will appear next to the result. So you'll see the result and then you'll see a little head of the author just next to it. And if you can imagine the way that would influence search results, because the eye is attracted to the photo. They'll see the photo. It's going to make it much more interesting to create, like a much more interesting user experience, because someone in position 3 potentially they might get more clicks than in position number 1 because they've got a photo next to it. The eye goes there, they end up clicking there, and then that photo is linked to their Google Plus account. So that way you see the photo and then you can click on their little profile to find out more about them. So what's Google doing? It's almost like they're giving special preference or weighting to someone who's on Google Plus. So I can imagine more and more businesses will want to jump onto Google Plus, because if they don't, their competition will, and even if their competition's in position number 3, they've got a head next to it and it's going to increase the click-through rate. And they're also integrating, the plan is to integrate this into everything that Google does. So in Gmail, you'll start to see in the top right-hand corner, they just announced this as well, you've got a little app that appears in the right-hand corner where now you'll be writing an email to someone, it'll recognise who you're writing the email to, and then it'll pull up their little Google Plus account and you can find out what your friend's doing. So you'll see the status update. Because Google Plus, it's very similar to Facebook. Like when you look at it, it looks like Facebook. You can upload photos, there's activity feeds, there's a few changes that they've made. You can start to add friends into circles now. So instead of having all of your friends on in your one Facebook account, Google Plus has this thing they call circles, where you might put all of your friends into one, you might put acquaintances into another, you might put business associates into another, so that way you can group who sees what. So that way you might have gone out and had a really big night on the weekend with some buddies, and you don't want your mum to see the photo of you lying in your own vomit in a gutter somewhere. So you'd upload that just into this circle, and then your mum can't see that one. So that's the way that the circles are going. And they've brought a few different other elements like that into it, but I think the real takeaway here is that that's the way that the web's going. So you want to make sure that you start to engage in this because it's not going anywhere and it's already starting to affect SEO. So from here, what do? The action plan. The action plan is you need to start positioning yourself as an expert ASAP, and I gave you those strategies to do that. Then you want to start watching your market. So set up your Google alerts, find out where the conversations are going on Twitter, make sure that you set up your Google Reader to know exactly what's going on, register your Twitter and your Facebook. At the moment, don't stress too much. Like I said, you've got plenty of other things to keep you busy before you really start getting into it. Because first we want to get everything else lined up, but then when you're moving into the marketing side of things, that's when you really want to start to look at that social media and start engaging with your clients. So seeing what you can do to encourage them when they, if you've got a local cafe, then someone comes in, get them to, put your Facebook URL up there so they can like your page, get them to check in, get them to follow you on Twitter because, once a week you give away a free coffee or something like that. You can do little fun things like that to try and get them engaging with you. Or how can you create the competition like we did with the photography guy, my coaching client Brent, and how can you do things like that to use Facebook for what it's actually planned for?